My name is Bond.
Bond.
It's Bond.
Bond.
It's Bond.
It's Bond.
James Bond.
Yep, we're back again. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Silver Screen Dudes YouTube channel. My name is Nico Luro, and we've been talking a lot about James Bond on the channel recently. A lot. I'd invite everyone who's seen my James Bond No Time to Die review to join me here on the video now, because we're going to be talking more Bond. And if you are new to the channel, I advise you to maybe go and have a look at that review. It's been pretty well received. We recently did a top 10 countdown of the top of our personal top 10 James Bond movies. Again, I thought I would build on that today, because what I'd like to do here is I'd like to rank every single James Bond movie. It's not just going to be me talking. There will be images and video, don't worry. But what I'd like to do here is I'd like to rank every single James Bond movie from worst all the way to best. Now, I'd like to put a few asterisks out there. I'm not counting the old Peter Sellers Casino Royale. Some people may think that's sacrilege, but let's be honest, it's a satire. And it's quite a cringy satire at that. And for me, it's not, it shouldn't be included in the conversation. Additionally, funnily enough, there was another Casino Royale. It's been made 3 times, that movie. There was a Casino Royale, I believe, made in the 50s, which was TV released, old black and white movie. Not included in the conversation. I'm including the 26 now mainline James Bond movies. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, it's not going to come as any surprise what my worst is, but at the risk of sounding redundant, this will come as no surprise to the people who have been tuning into the channel recently. And if anything, this may very well get people to stop watching this video right now. I implore you, though, please do watch on. But this movie, from top to bottom, as I've said in the review, it oozes class. It has great acting performances. It's beautifully shot. But despite all of its great successes, it is an utter disgrace and betrayal to the Bond franchise due to the undeserved ending.
Who is he?
James, you don't know what this is?
Yeah, you do know what this is now, though, if you've seen the movie. In my humble opinion, it's the worst Bond film ever made. I'll give you a snippet of what I said in the review here, which is, look, it's well shot, it's well acted, although the plot is convoluted as F. And the ending, if it sits right with you, great. But if it doesn't sit right with you, you're, I imagine, going to fall into my camp on this. And it will, for purely emotional reasons, not for objective critiquing or objective cinematic reasons, but for purely emotional reasons, because I deem it to be the biggest betrayal ever to the mainline James Bond franchise. Right in at number 26 is No Time to Die, released in 2021. And in at number 25, of all the cheesy Roger Moore Bond films, this one absolutely takes the cake. Between jewelry heists, nuclear war, world domination, it's bloated with plot and seriously lacking in substance. It's not really redeemable, as exemplified by this wonderful clown costume. I mean, yes, what? A clown costume? I'm sorry, how much are we trolling James Bond here with a clown costume? Now, the thing about Octopussy, what's so weird about it is that although... the thing that's so weird about it is that although it's got so much going on with it, like jewelry heist, like nuclear holocaust, like world domination, all of this, it's unforgivably boring. And that's something that I don't think you should ever assimilate with a James Bond movie. Okay, here we go. QWERTY Manor says, Octopussy bottom, you crazy? QWERTY Manor, in answer to your question, you just missed the beginning. Bottom for me was No Time to Die. And I imagine you're either going to agree or radically disagree with me on that. But I would love to know, QWERTY Manor, where would you rank Octopussy? I'm all ears. But going back to the list I was just talking about, it is at number 25 of 26, simply because I find it irredeemably boring. And I do think that they're borderline taking the mickey out of the James Bond character. So that was my 25. In at number 24, equally boring to Octopussy, is 2008's Quantum of Solace. There's a few things that a Bond movie should not do, as I've mentioned, and that is just be boring. And the memory I've got lingering with me from this movie is just Bond walking through the desert and ending in a big fire scene. I said 25, but I understand. Yes, fair enough, sir. That's from QWERTY Manor. Now, hands up, or at least comment in the chat, anyone else who's got memories of Quantum of Solace being Bond walking through a desert. It's a kind of a mixed, frustrating bag, because on the one hand, you've got... I thought Olga Kurylenko was a really good Bond girl, despite the fact that her and Bond never banged, which seems to be one of the recipes for success in a Bond movie. Didn't need to happen, and I think she was a better character for it. But this walking through the desert at the end, and it almost feels like haphazardly they come upon Green's lair, and yeah, there's a cool fire scene at the end, and it is stuff of nightmares. I'll give you that, but it's a boring film, man. Like there's no two ways to go about Quantum of Solace. It's utterly forgettable. The second worst of the Daniel Craig movies. So that was my 24. In at 23. Arguably the weakest of the Pierce Brosnan movies, Die Another Day really just got everything wrong. Despite attempted throwbacks to previous Bond movies, it suffers from some of the worst special effects of the modern day, though it does have a few quite exciting scenes permeating through it. Pierce Brosnan remains a great Bond, but come on. And come on, really. The laser in the mouth is a death? Like, what are we doing? You've got the laser in the mouth. You've got stupidity like the invisible cars, which, look, when I was a kid, I got a kick out of the Aston Martin turning invisible. Sure, it was cool. It's like the Predator's car. The Predator drives an Aston Martin now, but... The more you watch this movie, especially in the modern age, the more you realize how badly it has aged. And it completely butchered some of its supporting actors. You know, Halle Berry, Oscar-winning actress, not used very well in this film. Rosamund Pike, Oscar-winning actress. Arguably one of the stronger points of the film, but brutally underused. And the diamonds in the face character, I mean, it's getting all a little bit on the nose here. Dan Cook says, I'm here. What up, Dan? And QWERTY Manor says, CGI in Bond is unforgivable. Yes, well, yeah, we'll get on to that in a bit. But specifically in this movie, it's very unforgivable. It's very, very, very unforgivable. There are things which people reproach it for, which don't bother me so much, like the Ice Palace. I was like, okay, fine. Bond has always been about larger-than-life set pieces, so why not? But the invisible cars and, oh, man, the thing that the outlying bad point when he's using that kind of rocket car going across the ice and you've got the satellite from space shooting a sunbeam down on him, a reflected sunbeam. And then he ends up hanging on the side of that kind of ice mountain. It breaks off and he ends up paragliding on the remains of the rocket car. And that is the standout terrible CGI moment. Word 789, welcome back, sir. Oscar winner Halle Berry. Exactly. What did they do with her? Right, so that was my number 23. In at my number 22... Definitely guilty of being one of the sillier Bond plots with a spaceship trying to unleash a toxin onto the world, but we did have a few redeemable things in this movie. The campiness is still charming. It was cool to see some of the characters and actors embracing the campiness so much. Seeing characters like Jaws back was great. And come on, let's be honest, one of the best Bond ending lines ever.
007. My God, what's Bond doing?
I think he's attempting re-entry.
Come on. I think he's attempting re-entry, sir. It may not have aged well for the woke age that we live in, but come on. It's great. That's the sort of stuff which I condemn No Time to Die for, and kind of the Daniel Craig era for, because you need stuff like that. Yes, it's very much of its time, but it's part of the Bond DNA, in my humble opinion. Also, guys, before we carry on, I would like to completely declare that if you have a different order to me, or if you think I've got things completely wrong, I am no more right than you are. This is all a completely subjective list. I don't take this as gospel. And if you listen to the Top 10 show a few days ago, you'll know that the lists, because Bond has got so many great movies, the lists can kind of change from day to day. I'll paraphrase what Big Tone said a few days ago, though. Minus No Time to Die, which is an abomination. More on that in the review if you haven't seen it. There's not really been a bad Bond movie. There are just some that are better than others. Octopussy and Quantum are a bit unforgivably boring, but taking that little niggling aside, the Bond movies are just varying in quality, essentially. They're all pretty good. Only joke that made me laugh in No Time to Die was... Oh, don't leave me hanging. Word 789, do not leave me hanging. But yeah, No Time to Die, terrible. We've now done Die Another Day. We've done Moonraker. So what is number 21? Roger Moore's final appearance as James Bond, and this movie suffers from two unredeemable things. Roger Moore's performance, which is honestly dead behind the eyes, zombie-like, and a plot that is just boring. A computer magnate who wants to dominate the market for microchips. Yay. Just what I want in a Bond movie. But it did have Grace Jones and Christopher Walken as the titular villains.
So, does anybody else want to drop out?
Can't really go wrong with Christopher Walken as a villain, right? I mean, he's always on point. Grace Jones, for reasons that I think are cool, she's one of the... Yeah, she's a bit macho and she's a bit butch, but she's a badass and she absolutely kicks ass in this Bond movie. A View to a Kill for a lot of people is the... I don't want to say... Yeah, title of the video is worse, so let's stick with worst. The View to a Kill for a lot of people is the worst Bond movie, and I get it. There's not really much redeeming things in it. And Roger Moore really didn't make an effort for this film, which was pretty unforgivable as well, given that you're James Bond, mate, and you're being paid. You got to bring the heat here. But yeah, 21, A View to a Kill, utterly forgettable movie. Any comments that have come in? Let me just check out. And Word 789 said, only joke that made me laugh in No Time to Die was... I shown him my watch, out blew his mind, and the little sound effect. Yeah. And but is he tonally with it? Yeah, I agree with you, but it didn't resonate well with the tone of the movie. And then the text says, Grace Jones, my cuz. Yeah, she a badass. She an absolute badass. Right, so we've got rid of what a lot of people call the dredge. the less good, the worst of the Bond movies. Let's move on now. We're into the top 20. Forgive me, that was a phone call that came in. Bear with me. Finally, we've got a Sean Connery Bond, and this one didn't really sparkle, pun intended. I didn't really find that the casino 70s setting really worked for James Bond. It was all a bit too bright and garish. There were a few cool chases, though, and who could forget the bodyguards Bambi and Thumper? Yeah, who could forget the bodyguards Bambi and Thumper? Like, really, one of the redeeming things. It was cool to see Blofeld back, and it was definitely cool to see the continuation of what had happened previously with the whole Spectre and Blofeld storyline. But anyone else think that Hollywood is not somewhere Bond should be messing about with as a main setting for a movie? Sure, as an ending or maybe as an opening, it could be cool. But to have basically the whole movie there? Hang on. Whoa. Dan Cook said, Grace Jones, my cuz. No, she's actually your family. Well, why was she not on the show? If you're my bro, why can we not have her on the show as well? Come on, hook a man up. And Rianne Rain said, hey, Nico, how are you, man? I'm good, bro. Great to hear from you. QWERTY Manor says, Diamonds Are Forever is my bottom. I like some of the girls, but that's it. I hear that all day long. Diamonds Are Forever really is not a great Bond film. And it's, of all the Connery films, easily the lowest. Right. What's number 19? As Roger Moore Bond movies go, this one is seriously stripped back, going back to basics to the early days of James Bond. By far Roger Moore's most serious performance in the role. It was really cool to see Bond going back to the Cold War, and it was also quite refreshing not to see too many crazy set pieces. It's well made, it's a good middle-of-the-range Bond film. Yeah, it is a good middle-of-the-range Bond film. Roger Moore's always been criticized, although it's never inherently bothered me, but Roger Moore has always been criticized of being the cheesiest of the Bonds. I personally don't think, as I said, that that's a bad thing, but let's call a spade a spade. Of all the Bonds, he is hands down the cheesiest. This was the closest he got to ever replicating the feats of Sean Connery, because it really is dialed back a level, this one. They're not going wacky and out there. They're actually trying to make it about the Cold War, which is, again, part of Bond's DNA. They're actually trying to make him a little bit less cheesy. The cheese is still there, but they brought him down to earth. And for that reason, I thought the movie was a great success. Few comments that have come in. Let me just check that out. Qwerty Manor says, sorry, I think we've put Damas Alfrevis in my bottom. I like some of the girls, but that's it. Word 789 says, why have British spy in Hollywood? Emilio RZK, sorry, says, still can't get that No Time to Die ending out of my head. It's been 5 days and still pissed. Yes, Emilio RZK. And if you missed the beginning, that is exactly why the ending of No Time to Die made me put that movie as the worst Bond movie ever made at number 26. Why? Because it's a piece of shit. It's a betrayal to the Bond movie. Word 789 says, don't like Wacky Roger more Bond like Austin Powers. Yeah, literally, you're spot on there. It's the closest thing we've ever had to Austin Powers as far as Bond is concerned, and reverse engineer that statement. Austin Powers, I think, is safe to say, is pretty much modeled off of Roger Moore, or as close to it. All right, and Ryan Rain says, For Your Eyes Only is my second favorite Moore Bond film. Hey, dude, I get it. I get it. It's a good one. And Word 789 says, I don't think I'll ever get over No Time to Die ending. Yes. Yes, yes, a million times yes. Let's be clear. I said this in the review. That ending, for all the wrong reasons, is going to be spoken about for years to come. It has put a tarnish on the franchise that it's like getting an ink stain on a white shirt, for lack of a better analogy, because it's something that you're never getting off. It can get better with time, but you're never completely getting rid of it. It's always now going to be there in the back of our minds going, yeah, but the ending. I don't want to say the spoiler here because I covered it in the review, but yeah, the ending. Yeah, the ending. And Word 789 says, no Time for Me is not canon and didn't happen. I think that's a very healthy way of looking at it, Word 789. And I wish I had your strength of mind, because I can't see it like that. Right, so let's move up now to number 18. All too familiar in terms of plot and scope. There's something reassuring about seeing Connery back in the role. Max von Sydow plays a great Blofeld, and it's fun, but also kind of weird seeing Rowan Atkinson play Bond's helper. There's something very reassuring about seeing Sean Connery back in the role that he made famous, and you can tell that he's having fun knowing that it's his final time. Who can forget the ending?
Never, never say never again.
It's cool, right? And yes, never say never. The argument to be made here is that this shouldn't be included in the list, especially considering I wasn't including the Peter Sellers Casino Royale. Listen, it is canon, I believe, this Bond. I think Big Tone said this brilliantly the other day on podcast. He said that the reason people got butthurt about this and don't consider it canon is because it doesn't follow the opening formula. You know, the with the circle. You don't get the gunshot. You don't get a proper title intro. All things that are kind of like must-haves in a Bond movie, you don't get. So I get why people say it's not canon. It's a fun movie, but as I've just said, you know, we've seen it all before. The best thing about that movie is that, you know, it's Connery's last movie, and you can tell that he's embracing it. You can tell that he's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna bow out here, and he's the man who created this character. So for that reason, I think it does deserve to be on this list. But then Dennis Cook says, not a fan of this one, bro. It's bottom of the middle, essentially. Like, it's objectively, in my opinion, better than the other ones that I've mentioned just now. But, you know, we were talking about Moonraker a moment ago. So even Moonraker had some cool stuff in it. As terrible as it is, we're going to put a spaceship into space, and we're going to drop poison, and we're going to have Bond in space shooting lasers. I mean, it's full-on Dr. No stuff. But it's fun. It's fun. You got to have fun with it. And Word 789 says, not a fan of that never say never jingle. No, it's awful. As Bond songs go, it's definitely in the discussion for one of the worst. And in at number 17, though it's incredibly hard to argue against Brosnan being one of the best Bonds as far as aesthetics and personality go, he was not blessed with the best movies, unfortunately. Though The World Is Not Enough does have some great supporting actors like Robert Carlyle and Sophie Marceau, it took a nosedive with Denise Richards.
James!
Ooh. James! Wooden acting! Ooh. Like, again, The World Is Not Enough. While not a great film, I still had a lot of fun with it, you know? Look, full disclaimer, Pierce Brosnan is my favorite Bond. And actually, for those of you watching, whether you're live or whether you're watching at some point in the future, please comment down below, who is your favorite James Bond ever? The best actor for you to have played James Bond. There are no wrong answers, because as far as I'm concerned, they're all pretty good. Yes, including George Lazenby. I think he's criminally underrated. But look, The World Is Not Enough is stupid. It's not in terms of plot. You know, we're talking about a nuclear meltdown, which Robert Carlyle's trying to achieve by placing, I think it's plutonium, not uranium, by placing a plutonium reactor and overcharging it inside of a submarine. Okay, it sounds pretty Cold War-ish. It sounds pretty much like your average run-of-the-mill Bond story, which there's nothing wrong with. The problem that the Pierce Brosnan movies have, there's a very fine line to tread with James Bond, because on the one hand, you've got to make sure that you stick to the formula enough for the fans to have that level of familiarity with it. But at the same time, you never want to become formulaic. You never want to feel like you're a copy and paste of the last movie. And The World Is Not Enough is a little bit guilty of that. And that was, unfortunately, with some of the Brosnan movies, what they were all guilty of. Other than the first, it became very formulaic in their construction. Let's see a few comments. QWERTY Manor says, The World Is Not Enough is my favorite Brosnan Bond due to Electra King fooling everyone. Great shout. Listen, Electra King, played by Sophie Marceau. 2 thumbs way up, my man. Can't really disagree with that. Used to be Pierce Brosnan, but now is Daniel Craig. Again, there are no wrong answers here. I'm a Brosnan guy, but yeah, I see where you guys are coming from. Have you ever played the Bond games? Nightfire is an average Brosnan Bond game with an original story. I have played Nightfire. I've also played, this is going back a while now, I've also played Everything or Nothing on the Nintendo GameCube back in the day. That was an original story, and I actually thought that was pretty damn good. And then, of course, you've got the Brosnan games, which, you know, GoldenEye and The World Is Not Enough, ironically, which was not as good as the GoldenEye game, but The World Is Not Enough on the Nintendo 64 was still a damn good game. And I think a lot of people missed that one. 007 Bloodstone is a great Craig Bond game with a decent story. We'll need to check that one out. And then Dennis Cook says, sorry, I like Roger Moore, the campiness. Yes, embrace it. Unleash the camp. There is nothing wrong with a bit of campiness in Bond, right? So that was 17. What is number 16? When he first took on the role, Timothy Dalton was panned by critics for being far too uptight comparatively to Roger Moore's campiness. Can't win, can you? Roger Moore was too campy, people didn't like it. Timothy Dalton was too uptight. I think they were both great in their own regard. But The Living Daylights brings things back down to earth with a tale about the KGB and defection, throw in a few good action scenes, and you got a really cool Bond movie. Really cool Bond movie. And again, one I think that people are underrating. And it's almost become a popular soundbite, hasn't it? To say that, you know, George Lazenby is a terrible Bond and that Timothy Dalton's a terrible Bond. Is there really a terrible Bond? No. Some people have even said, I mean, I haven't read any of the James Bond books. I know, terrible. But a lot of people have said that Dalton's actually very close to how Bond was portrayed in the books. I mean, if you know, please comment down below and let me know. Share the edutaining. But Dalton, what's interesting, right? We mentioned this on podcast, is that Timothy Dalton was supposed to be the original James Bond, but he was too young, so they gave it to Connery. And then he was never meant to be Bond again because both this and a movie I'm going to talk about a bit later were meant to go to Pierce Brosnan, but he was contractually tied with Remington Steele, of course. So Dalton got a bit of an unlucky ride with James Bond, but I actually think he put in a shift. He put in a really good shift. And Word789 says there isn't bad Bonds, just different Bonds. Well said, Word789. So that was 16. Moving on to number 15. For me, Brosnan just is Bond. He's so suave and cool, it's unreal. And the other thing that's unreal is the on-screen chemistry between Pierce Brosnan and Terry Hatcher. Jonathan Pryce plays a bit of a retread of the Christopher Walken villain from A View to a Kill. The plot is a bit meh. Media mogul who wants to control the media. Okay. Little bit seen it all before, but I mean, if we could compare this to anything, it is A View to a Kill, but it's a better version of View to a Kill. Also, the gadgets in this movie, the BMW, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. While I've said already that the Brosnan movies were lacking in something, you really have to admire them for the gadgetry. The gadgetry shithousery that they put forward. Because come on, who didn't want to control their car through their phone with a touchpad? I mean, talk about ahead of the time. We're not controlling our cars, obviously, but touchpad and all that is pretty much what we're doing now, essentially. But this was so cool for the time it was released in, man. The only kind of gripe I have is I wish that BMW had been an Aston Martin, but hey ho, it was still freaking awesome to see that. Michelle Yeoh, I thought she's a really underrated Bond girl. I thought she put in a solid shift in this. I love the setting it in Halong Bay in Vietnam. I thought that was cool as hell. But as I just mentioned, that the major kind of gripe that I have with this movie is it does feel a bit like A View to a Kill 2. It feels very much like a similar retread. But yeah, any comments have come through. Insomniac 37 says Carver would have been more interesting if he had used his media propaganda against Bond and MI6 directly. I could not agree more, Insomniac 37. Yeah, it was kind of just like, I'm a mogul and I want to take over the world. It's like, cool, but make it a bit more about Bond than just this random I'm a media mogul. And Emilio RZK says, do you think Hollywood will remove Ian Fleming's Bond and replace him with a woke Bond? Emilio RZK, I think they already have. And Dennis Cook says, nope, Rupert Murdoch was the bad guy. Too close to home. Yes, Den. I agree. And in at number 14, we have got... Always felt that Spectre gets a bit of a bad rap, but it definitely was exciting seeing Blofeld come into the Daniel Craig Bond timeline. Although the plot does feel a bit contrived, what was really cool above everything was the stunts, which were completely practical for most part without having to rely on CG. Monica Bellucci, also a fantastic Bond girl. Fantastic and underused. And someone said this in the comments earlier. Forgive me if not remembering which one of you it was. But someone mentioned that, the CGI in Bond, especially in the Brosnan era, it was getting progressively worse and worse. Spectre was a sight to behold. It really, really was. Like the fight scenes, some of the stunt work they were doing, it all practical. So that was cool. Spectre, as I said, it gets a bit of a bad rap as in the Craig era. I like it. I really like it because it goes back to what Bond was. There was more cheese with the Craigs, with Spectre than in the other Craig Bond movies, which I like. I think that's part of the Bond characters, as I've said a few times already. There was a lot of gadgetry, which I actually thought was lacking. I mean, there's that famous line, I believe it's in Casino Royale, where where 007 meets the young Q for the first time. And he hands him his gun and he says, what, that's it? And then they make the joke of, what would you like, a laser watch or a laser pen or something? And it's kind of like, well, actually, yeah, I kind of would, because that's something I expect from these movies. So Spectre gave me that in bundles. And of course, we cannot move on from talking about Spectre without talking about Christoph Waltz as Blofeld. Now, here's an interesting question for you. Blofeld has been played by a lot of different actors now. Max von Sydow, Christoph Waltz, Donald Pleasance, and there's others whose names I am forgetting. But there's a good 5 actors who have played Blofeld. Who's your favorite portrayal of Blofeld been by? Would love to hear that in the comments below. We've got a few that have come in. QWERTY Manor, Spectre is my number 24 Bond. Just bored. Yeah, man, each to their own. Each to their own. Spectre worked for me. I thought Quantum was the boring Craig movie, to be honest. But I guess the criticism you could have with Spectre is it was kind of like playing GoldenEye on N64 in agent mode. It was all very easy. It never really felt like there was any risk involved. But yeah, that was, I believe, number 14. So in at number 13. Some people go as far as to say that Sean Connery's second outing as Bond is even better than his first. But this really is a brilliant spy thriller with some memorable action scenes, most notably against Robert Shaw on the Orient Express, which has inspired so many train fight scenes. It's crazy. Yeah, inspired so many train fight scenes, including the aforementioned train fight scene on Inspector. And it inspired another train fight scene in another Bond movie, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's one of my top 10 movies. But yeah, train fights and Bond movies kind of go hand in hand. And this is the OG. And the setup that they have with Robert Shaw at the beginning, portraying him as this ultimate badass. Really, really well done. I'd even go so far as to say this might be a bit of a reach, but work with me on this. I'd go so far as to say that From Russia with Love is not just a great Bond movie, not just a great Cold War spy thriller. It's a hugely influential Cold War spy thriller. So you can see where things like Captain America the Winter Soldier got their ideas from. Like, it was here. Really cold, slow pace, slow burn, methodical spy thriller. Listen, From Russia with Love is a superb movie. And Word 789 says Mike Myers is Dr. Evil. Okay, well played. From Russia with Love also had a great game on the PS2. I had a PS2, but I missed that one, I believe. Although I think I do remember there being something about that. I bet it was Casino Royale for the train fight. Yeah. And Emilio RZK says Daniel Craig is James Bond for me. The way he wears those suits and acts is okay. Yeah. I mean, depends on the suit. The suit in Skyfall, I can rock with. I thought the tuxedo he was wearing in Casino Royale, sorry to say this, I thought he looked a bit fucking ridiculous. But speaking of Casino Royale, what? Too many people, the best Bond movie, but only my number 12. Yes, I know, Burn the Witch. I get why people like this movie, a complete reinvention of Bond. Instead of using Bond as a kind of dress up to the action and the great set pieces, this centered on Bond the man, the broken personality that he had, how troubled he is. And it worked for a lot of people, and it was a box office success. Ava Green plays a fantastic Vesper Lind, and Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre was really a great Bond villain. And who can forget that opening parkour scene? Yeah, who can forget that opening parkour scene? It's one of the best chases ever put to cinema. Forget parkour. Chases, best chases ever. Yeah. And here we go. Here come the comments. Word 789. Only number 12? What? And QWERTY Manor, number 12. Oof. I know. So here's the thing. Bit of an honesty moment now. And listen, if you disagree, that's cool. What movies are about, right? But I was a bit younger at the time, but I was not happy with Daniel Craig being made James Bond. And I need to go and rewatch Casino Royale because I'm still remembering it and I'm still seeing it through the prism of angry, younger, and angry for nothing, but angry, younger me who was on this Craig not Bond hate bandwagon. He has grown on me, especially with movies like Skyfall and Spectre. But Casino Royale, I appreciate, is a lot of people's favorite Bonds, and there are some amazing scenes in it. And obviously, it's the seeds for the whole Daniel Craig arc. You know, this is why he becomes such a troubled man, losing Vesper Lind. There are some amazing set pieces in it, notably the scene in Venice at the end, which is stunning, or the scene in Madagascar at the beginning. I believe it's Madagascar. It's that middle section. As great as Le Chiffre is, Mads Mikkelsen, it's a bit bloody yawn. And I'm a guy who likes poker, but it was a casino scene that long. It was kind of like they took a famous scene from a James Bond movie and made it into a movie. And I kind of felt like, you know, those famous sketches from Monty Python where they're like, get on with it. I felt a bit like that. Airport scene was also really good. So remember I said a few moments ago that when one makes a list of James Bond movies, one will often revisit that list and the list will get reshuffled. it's a very good chance that Casino Royale very well might get reshuffled for me now that the Craig era of Bond is over. Few comments have come in. Ward789 said, they flipped an Aston Martin and got a Guinness World Record for most car flips in a movie. What more you want? So, actually, this is a really good point that I'd like to address. Aston Martin and James Bond go hand in hand. Spaghetti, meatballs, yada, 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 right? They're perfect for each other. When he gets in that Aston Martin scene lasts, time it, less than 2 minutes. It's literally, he's driving, Vesper's in the road, flip. The flip was cool, but I wanted to see more of him in the Aston. You know, it's like, you've just given me an hour of him in the casino, and now I get 2 minutes or less of him in the Aston, and it's not even a proper chase. Really think about it. It's not a chase. It's him driving at speed on the road. He's not, story-wise, it's a chase, but you never see him, you know, side by side next to another car. So I'm afraid the car flip's cool, and it's nice that it got a Guinness World Record and all that. But I've just got to stick to what, you know, resonated with me. And I was like, well, okay, cool. James Bond in an Aston. I would like more of that, please. And Den the Tech, Dennis Cook says, I remember people saying James Bond. Yeah, well, no, I'm not really sure what you mean by that, bro. QWERTY Manor said, middle section is great. Poker game has enough action in between to not be boring. Yes, no, look, I agree. It's well made. It's well shot. I didn't say it was boring. It was like dragging. It's like, get on with it. And remember, this is coming from a guy who likes poker. Like, I wanted more from this Bond. Like, it was bookended by some fantastic scenes, and it was just the middle. Get on with it. Get on with it. The Aston Martin had a defibrillator. It did, which is cool, but I expect this from a Bond car because it's a James Bond car. And QWERTY Manor says, I like that it's short. Kinda subverts expectations. Dangerous territory subverting expectations when it comes to James Bond, QWERTY Manor. Simple reason being, I direct you to No Time to Die. That subverted expectations. Right, that was my number 12. Into my number 11. Man, it was hard to leave off the man with a golden gun from the top 10, but it just misses out. The setting is beautiful, that of Thailand. James Bond comes up against one of his greatest adversaries in Bond history, while lacking maybe a little bit in the gadgets department. We did get a flying car, and who better to go up against 007 than Scaramanga, played by Christopher Lee? Right? Who better? Now, this is, for me, Bond's second greatest nemesis. Now, okay. Let me rewind on that comment. With Nemesis, his greatest enemy, archetype, nemesis, villain is, of course, Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Okay? I'm talking about not people, not like head of organizations, not talking about king villains. I'm talking about if Bond was to get into a punch-up with Blofeld, kick his ass. Any iteration of Blofeld, Bond would kick his ass. I'm talking about, it sounded a bit like Christopher Walken, in his ass. Bond going up against certain villains, and I don't just mean muscle men. They're a separate category too, in my head. I don't know why I'm classifying villains like this, but just work with me on this. In terms of matching him for skill, as a hired gun, as a spy, as an assassin, all of the above. In terms of matching him, Scaramanga, played by the late, great Christopher Lee, is for me Bond's second greatest adversary, a man who could match him. I mean, it's literally in the song, isn't it? No one can catch him, no hitman can match him for his $1 million skill. The song is accurate, you know, and it's such a badass line that he drops to Bond when they're doing the Mexican standoff. I only need one bullet. And of course, we have to talk about Little Knick Knack, you know, the short person. Just the movie works for me. Everything's cool. We get Sheriff J.W. Pepper's back too. You ain't gonna do that, boy. I sure am, boy. There's a lot of fun to be had. And I also, here's how you do, I said this on the podcast, but here's how you do female empowerment properly. So Bond's in the middle of a temple, and he's about to have his ass kicked by some kung fu guys. And these two Thai girls come along, bringing them white eye to the table, and they kick all the boys' ass. Awesome. Just awesome. Now, before we move on to the top 10, which if you've seen the podcast, you know what the top 10 is. Let me just address a few questions. Dan the Tech says, people hated that Bond was blonde. Yes, me too. And I'm blonde. I hated that Bond was blonde. Word789 says they played Le Baccarat in the Casino Royale book. Texas Poker was added in the movie for people to understand. Fair play. Didn't know that. All things considered, good creative decision. Dennis Cook says, I love this one. I'm assuming you mean the man with the golden gun. Quatimana says, it's silly but works for me. Of course. And then Whistle ruined the car bridge. Okay. I remember the whistle now you've said it. Yes, the whistle was cheesy. I can't defend the whistle. But the car bridge flip was cool. And then from the car bridge, obviously, we go into a flying car. Right. It's top 10 time. Here we go. Number 10.
Classic. Absolute classic. Everything that has been established in Bonds moving forward all started here. From the iconic Bond girls to the beautiful tropical locations to the larger-than-life villains to the spy gadgetry to the charm of the main character. We're not just talking about a classic James Bond here. We are talking about a classic film, period.
Big Tone coming in with a little shout out. Thank you, Big Tone. Shout out to you too, Aunt D. But this part of the show, you know already, Big Tone. You were on podcast with me not but 2 days ago, so you know what my top 10 is. Maybe go back and start the beginning of the video to see how they rank from 26 through to 10, if you want. And Big Tone says, hurt me to leave this off my top 10. Yes, because Dr. No is awesome. And QWERTY Manor says we have the same number 10. Yes, good. I love to hear this. Let's be real. It's non-fathomable to leave Dr. No off for top 10 unless you're Big Tone. Love, bro. But this is where it started. It's where it all started. I mean, literally, this is the definition of what Dr. Evil was talking about, wasn't it? Because you've got a, that great scene in Austin Powers. All I wanted was some freaking sharks with some freaking lasers on their heads. I mean, we are one step away from that in Dr. No. But you know why that's fine? Because it's 1962 and we don't need to go hardcore on the spy kick-assery drama stuff. This created the DNA of everything that was to follow, stating the obvious here because it was the first one. But for that very reason, maybe I'm looking at it through rose-tinted glasses, a bit nostalgically, but it's a work of art. One has to admire this Bond movie. And Harry's boy says, think Dr. No may have featured the most beautiful Bond woman. Ooh! Let's get misogynistic here, boys and girls. Who's the most beautiful Bond woman? Discuss in the comments below. Fire away. And then the text says, this is on my list, but it's boring. Behave. There is nothing boring about Dr. No. So that was my 10. Over to my number 9.
I might be doing this one a bit of disservice putting it so quote-unquote low, as Goldfinger is undoubtedly the most famous James Bond. From the dramatic opening of seeing the woman covered in gold and killed as a result, to the henchman Oddjob, to, let's face it, Pussy Galore, which still draws a chuckle to this day. Yeah, I see you. To the iconic laser on the table scene, the plane fight scene, the iconic Aston Martin DB5, and of course, it's the first time we ever heard the line, shaken, not stirred.
Who are you?
Bond. James Bond.
So cool. So cool. This is what makes Bond so cool. Bond, James Bond, shaken, not stirred. And Big Tone has gone back to the beginning. He says, damn, why you hate Octopussy like that? Big Tone, they put James Bond in a clown suit. I'll leave it at that. God, look, am I doing an injustice to Goldfinger? The more I'm thinking about this, the more I think it should be higher, and that at 9 is too low. It's the most famous James Bond movie. It was where we first saw the Aston Martin DB5 with all of the amazing gadgets. It's got one of the best villain lines ever. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. It's kind of got everything. More I'm thinking about this, more I'm like, it should be higher. But for the sake of presentation, this is how I've got the list. Insomniac 37 says, Goldfinger had the formula perfect. I agree. But Bond himself remained captured, inactive for too long. You know what? I'm going to take that little red herring and I'm going to now use that for my justification of it being number 9. So we'll go with that. And QWERTY Manor says, Boomer, love this movie the most, but it's still in my top 10. Yep, fair play. Right, and now we go over to number 8.
Really unusual plot for a Bond movie, given that we're trying to stop a Mr. Big who's giving away free heroin to try and corner the market, but it still brings the cheese, the charm, everything you want from a Roger Moore movie, including Jane Seymour as an iconic Bond girl.
Yeah, so here we go. Discuss. We're talking about beautiful Bond girls. Honey Rider. Now we've got Jane Seymour's character. Why am I blanking? Someone in the comments help me out. What was her? Oh my god, I'm blanking on the character. Help, guys, help me in the chat. Oh, it's gonna come back to me in a moment. Oh god damn it, that's really gonna do my head in. It's not Tarot, that's the bloody card she uses. Anyway, we'll get there. Or someone in the comments will get there. Please help me. Jane Seymour's character. Everyone Googling like crazy now. What was Jane Seymour's character called? And yeah, Dennis Cook says, this is my favorite blonde. See black people in Bond film was great. And this was in 1973. Solitaire, Harry's boy. Solitaire, Dennis Cook. Thank you very much, guys. That was doing my head in. You know, when you got something on the tip of your tongue and it's like, what is it? Solitaire in the... Thank you, card game, man. Yeah, Solitaire is in the discussion for one of the most beautiful Bond girls. She's in the discussion for one of the best developed Bond girls. And here we go. We were talking about train scenes earlier from Russia with Love. We were talking about Spectre. This has also got a great train scene. What's his face with the big bloody claw hand? I can't remember his name. The huge brother. Monster of a man. And again, another train scene. And we can't really talk about Live and Let Die without talking about Baron Samedi, right? I mean, we got a guy who can't die. Threw him in a snake pit, comes back. Shoot his head off. It's porcelain. He comes back. It's awesome. Proper voodoo child shit. And I love the setting too, the Orleans setting. I thought that was cool as hell. But yeah, Dan, I got you. Baron Samedi. I got you all day long, mate. But yeah. This goes down as one of my favorite just because of the setting, because of how unique it is. It's not the only Bond to deal in drugs. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But yeah, that is cracker of a film. My number 8, Live and Let Die. And in at number 7...
I'm really pleased to see more and more people showing appreciation for Her Majesty's Secret Service and recognizing that George Lazenby isn't the soundbite that everyone says he is in terms of being wooden. Diana Riggs as Tracy is great. Blofeld's back. The ending is dramatic as you like. The tone of this movie is flawless, which is why it's a keeper.
So this ending, this movie, so number 7, along with my number 4, which we're going to talk about in a minute, of course, I think these two movies together far better portrayed the Daniel Craig arc that we got over 5 movies. We'll discuss that when I tell you guys what my number 4 is. But yeah, Dennis Cook says most shocking ending. Yeah, I agree. And that's in a world where we've had no time to die, because this was earned. This felt like an absolute revenge hit. And Harry's boy says this ending is a good downbeat ending. Yes, exactly. And it feels earned. I cannot stress that point enough. Now, what's been really nice, since we've put the poll up on Twitter between our 4 finalists from the podcast, a lot of people are questioning where the hell is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I'm really happy to see that more and more people are coming to love this movie. It's being less... Yeah, you know how it's become like trendy to hate on certain movies? Like it's trendy to hate on Avatar. Like some people call it the gay Smurf movie, which I think, by the way, is hysterical. But yeah, it's trendy to hate on Avatar. It's become trendy to hate on some of the Marvel movies now, because guess what? Martin Scorsese did it. So now world hates Marvel. If you like Marvel, you're not a real movie fan. And it's kind of over the years become trendy to hate on Her Majesty's Secret Service. People are liking it now, which I love. I think it's great. And I think George Lazenby is a criminally underrated James Bond. People saying he was shit. No, he's not. He's not shit. He's absolutely not shit. He's good enough to make my number 7. But again, my opinion means nothing in all this. It's just an opinion. Like it's got no actual weight or sway. But, you know, I like George Lazenby. And in at number 6.
The 4th in the Connery franchise of the Bond line, and one of the best. It follows the adventures of James Bond trying to recover 2 stolen nuclear warheads stolen by Spectre. It expands on the Spectre storyline, showing us them in the room together, showing us the site of Spectre's number 2, who is the ultimate nemesis in this. You get everything. The sharks, you get the tropical locations, you even get a rocket pack.
You You get a bloody rocket pack, for Christ's sake. Like, who doesn't want James Bond in a rocket pack? There are certain criteria in life that need to be met. And one of them is seeing James Bond in a rocket pack. You see what I mean? This is an example of why I have a bit of disdain for some of the Daniel Craig Bond movies. Because you need to embrace the funniness in life sometimes while being a kick-ass sexy spy. Seeing Bond in a rock pack, good. Seeing Bond in space in Moonraker, less good, but still fun. But yeah, Thunderbolt. Christopher Nolan, I said this on podcast, Christopher Nolan is on record as saying of all the Bond movies, this is the best written. I'm not sure I agree with that, but it's certainly a hell of a film. And I love the way that they developed the Spectre storyline just before you finally meet Blofeld for the first time in one of the coming movies we're going to discuss. This really felt like, oh, we're at a final hurdle here before the big thing. So all of this tomfoolery or fuckery or shithousery or any appropriate name that you want to call it, that Daniel Craig is the only movie which had a continuing storyline. Bullshit. It's incorrect in every sense of the word. So hang on, we've got a few comments that have come in. Let me address them. QWERTY Manor in reference to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I don't like the movie because Lazenby, but it's good. Each to their own. Nothing wrong with that. And Insomniac 37 says Miss Fiona Volpe was an awesome femme fatale. I completely agree. And Harry's boy says Bond could have done with a rocket pack at the yes. Bond could have done with a rocket pack at the end of No Time to Die. And Big Tone now you see what we were talking about. Big Tone, who was on the top 10 James Bond podcast with me a few days ago, has just said Diamonds Are Forever is not in my top 10 today. Lol. This is what I mean. Bond movies are all so fun and entertaining, other than No Time to Die, in some aspects, because you can literally have a list one way one day and then it changes the next. But Big Tone had no Diamonds Are Forever in his top 10. I didn't relate to that, but each to their own, as I keep saying. So Thunderball was my number 6, and now we get to the business end. In at number 5,
hands down the best Roger Moore Bond movie of them all. This one doesn't necessarily have a villain who has great plans for world domination. In fact, the plan's a little bit loose, but it does have amazing stunt pieces like this skiing scene. It's got some of the best Bond henchmen, possibly the best Bond henchman in Richard Keel's Jaws, and the amazing, my personal favorite Bond girl, Anya, played by Barbara Buck. Ringo Starr, you are a lucky man. And also a car that could challenge the Aston.
Yes, a car that could challenge the Aston. I'm going to open up a can of whoop-ass here, I know. And I've said it already once here when I made Casino Royale number 12. But here we go. Bring the pitchforks and torches and burn the witch, this guy right here, because I think the Lotus is a better Bond car than any of the Aston Martins. Yep. Now, that isn't logic speaking. That's not any type of reasoning going on, other than the fact that The Spy Who Loved Me was the first Bond film I ever saw, and my little mind at the time couldn't contemplate what I was seeing on screen. The chase, if you think about it, in The Spy Who Loved Me is stuff of legend. You're on this mountain freeway. You're being chased by Jaws, who then goes off a cliff after the Lotus has squirted a load of like, I don't even know what it was. It looked like some kind of gas that kind of solidified. And then he goes off the cliff. Then you got a freaking motorbike, you know, one of those motorbikes with the little side things, and the sidecar is basically a rocket. Then you got a helicopter chasing him, and once the helicopter's done chasing him, the Lotus goes off the end of the pier into the water. And here we go. One of the sardonic brilliances of James Bond is Bond gonna die like in that fuckhead film No Time to Die? It's actually, how's Bond gonna get out of this one? Hey, presto, here's the answer. How does Bond get out of a car being underwater? It's really simple. The car turns into a submarine. Now, that, forgive me, is awesome. Also, as well as Jaws and Barbara Buck, the aforementioned Anya that I said, come on. Supervillain Lair is in the middle of the sea. It's just awesome. It's just so cool. Got a few comments that have come in. Let me read them out. Ant says, second favorite Bond song, Nobody Does It Better, is an absolute banger. And QWERTY Manor says, same number 5. It fits Roger's Bond like a glove. It does, and it is the best Roger Moore film. Dennis Cook says, go fuck yourself there. That is definitely in relation to the Aston Martin versus Lotus comment. And Andy says, the Lotus has a cool feature. Yes, it does. It turns into a submarine, which is just cool. And Querty Manor says, Lotus is cool, but come on, DB5. You're all right. I know I'm wrong in this. You are all correct in this. But it's the child in me. It's the fact that this was the first time I saw a car with gadgets. It's got that special place in my heart, which is very hard to look past. But you're all correct. There's no doubt about that. Harry's boy says, Spy Who Loved Me, brilliant entertainment for all the family. And that's what James Bond should be. And Andy says the sub car was original. Yes, it was. And Dennis Cook says, if I could give you only one car, you'll pick that car. Well, here's the thing. Den, you know that I'm a diver. I film underwater for a living, right? So if you're going to give me a car that can go underwater, yes, I pick that car. So yeah, Spy Who Loved Me is my number 5. And in at number 4,
in Timothy Dalton's final appearance as James Bond, they played to his strengths, and what we got as a result was a much darker Bond movie, and by far the most violent Bond movie ever made. And that's not the reason it's my number 4, although it does have some ridiculous scenes like a helicopter capturing a plane. It's one of the most grounded Bonds. Bond's going after a cocaine dealer who's playing politics. It's got a young Benicio del Toro. It's got a plot that's really interesting. It just works top to bottom, this film.
Absolutely top to bottom. This film just works. Now, I said earlier, literally just a moment ago, about how number 7, which is On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and number 4, License to Kill, tie in so perfectly to make this basically the same kind of story arc that they were going for in the 5 Daniel Craig movies. So what happens to him in On Her Majesty's Secret Service? We all know this. His wife dies. Diane Rigg. Wife dies. Tracy's gone, right? This makes him violent and angry at the world. And we see that come to fruition in License to Kill. Because what happens in License to Kill? James Bond's best friend, Felix Leiter, gets married. What happens to his bride? Sanchez, the villain, pretty much instantly kills her. And Bond walks in to find a dead Della, Felix's wife. Next thing you know, Felix is being fed to a frickin' tiger shark. Now, although the tiger shark thing is definitely impetus enough for James Bond to go on a personal vendetta mission, it's got that much more power to it because Bond knows what loss is at this point. He's been through the loss of his wife. He knows what Felix is going through. And you can tell, at least I think that's what they're going for in the storyline, that this is hallowed ground. We've been here before and we didn't like it at all. This is a valid revenge in hindsight of what happened to him on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So what they managed to do in 2 movies, which was show Bond to be violent, bitter, cold, angry at the world. And it only takes that one, I mean, it's not a little thing, but it only takes that one similarity to what happened to him to push him over the edge, because this is not an MI6 mission. This is as personal as it bloody gets. And just like that, you can show that Bond is a fallible, angry, bitter, vengeful man. 5 movies versus 2. I don't know. You tell me what was the better story arc. And with some of the comments we have, this is my second favorite Jack Reacher Bond. Fuck off. And this is my second favorite Jack Reacher Bond. Got that comment twice for some reason, Den. I'd love to hear what you guys think. A lot of people say that I'm ranking License to Kill too highly. But in reality, go back and watch this film. It has aged brilliantly. And in at number 3,
incredible. This movie is just money. The first time Bond and Blofeld lock horns, this time Blofeld played by the iconic Donald Pleasance. It's got everything. It's got the gadgets, the tropical locations like Japan, even Bond messing around with ninjas. What more could you ask for?
Ninjas! Like ninjas! Who? Bond and ninjas! It's got a fantastic setting. It's got the first time you see Blofeld. It's got, here we go, Dr. Evil. It's got a volcano lair. Like, this is the best Connery Bond movie. And it would be the best Bond movie, in my very invalid but humble opinion, were it not for my next 2. And I don't think this movie, despite how revered it is, gets anywhere near enough love. And Querty Manor says, License to Kill, not in my top 10, but it is underrated. Thank you. I acknowledge that. And Querty Manor says, I would like this more if Sean Connery wasn't bored. Yeah. Okay. I can see that. I can see where you're coming from. Ninja, says Dennis Cook. Yes, ninjas, ninjas, ninjas. And Ant has come around and seen the light. This replaces Diamonds Are Forever today. For me, I should have said this. Yes. It's just one of the greats, man. And in at number two.
What a movie. This time the movie focuses on the past of Bond superior M, played by Judi Dench, and we find out a lot about a former MI6 operative turned terrorist, Raul Silva, played by Javier Bardem, so someone who could go toe-to-toe with Bond. You've just got everything. It's beautifully shot, beautifully edited, and what a song to open the movie.
A song to open the movie, Let the Sky Fall. It is a wonder. Sorry, not Let the Sky Fall. Skyfall. It is a superb song performed by Adele. It's so well paced, this movie. Sam Mendes really did a number on the franchise. He really, really brought that flair that he's got for cinematography. That eye that he has. This felt like a globe-trotting adventure, and it also felt so contained and personal, because obviously we go back to Bond's roots here. We see where he comes from, and man, do they lay siege to that place. For me, I don't think there's a Daniel Craig movie that can hold a candle to Skyfall. Not even close. I know that there's mad love for Casino Royale out there. I think, and I mean this objectively, not with my, former Craig hating eyes on, which I had for when I watched Casino Royale. I don't think Casino Royale touches Skyfall as far as a movie making experience goes. It's crazy. Now, Luffy Abraham says, Yolt. I was thinking like the cab company. You Only Live Twice is my favorite. Yes, Luffy Abrams, I love you for saying that. And Dennis Cook says, good movie, dumb plan from the bad guy, but loved it. Well, you think that plan was dumb? I direct your attention to No Time to Die. And Ant says, favorite song of the modern era. Second favorite. I've got to raise you that with You Know My Name by Chris Cornell. That's a cracking song. So, in at number one, you all know what it is by now.
AKA the best Bond ever! Man, what a film that reinvented the franchise. Pierce Brosnan in the titular role. Amazing villains, in this case played by Sean Bean's Alec Trevelyan, 006, the guy who betrayed MI6. It's got amazing locations, amazing set pieces. It just has everything. No wonder it made for a pretty awesome video game.
A pretty awesome video game that without which we wouldn't even have Call of Duty. Yes, I said it. Come at me, gamers. It's just a fact. This is the perfect Bond experience. Everything is in this. The acting is superb. The set pieces are amazing. The set pieces are larger than life. The gadgets are incredible. The Bond girls, both of them are incredible. The villain is incredible. The story is incredible. There is nothing wrong with this movie. Nothing. Not as a standalone movie, which we're critiquing and, going into deep detail on. As a Bond movie, nothing touches this for me. Of course, this is always for me. Like, I appreciate that there may be a huge difference of opinion here, but the legacy that this movie has left behind it, from the Tina Turner song to the Nintendo 64 game to, Pierce Brosnan's a good-looking cat. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, man, this film is good. I cannot speak highly enough about it. And Insomniac 37 says, GoldenEye also had the best Q line ever. Don't touch that. That's my lunch. Correct. David Bell says, missed the notification of this going live. Looking forward to scrolling back and watching it. Only recently discovered your channel, but loving your takes on one. Thank you so much, David Bell. I appreciate that. For England, James. No, for me, says Denver Tech. Exactly. And then Ant says, 006 is my second favorite nemesis, as you put it. Yeah, so Ant and I have got an opposite here. Ant's favorite is Scaramanga. Alec Trevelyan, or Yanis, as he becomes later known, is my favorite. GoldenEye it's Bond perfection, and it hasn't aged. The effects maybe have aged, but in terms of the story and how it's evolved, you know how some of them, like, I think he's attempting re-entry, sir. Some of them you think, okay, geez, Moonraker, yada, yada, yada. But this film has not aged. But I'm not going to dawdle on. It's been an hour. Really appreciate you guys tuning in for that. Kind of amazing that you give me that sort of time. So I really appreciate you for doing that. That is my James Bond worst to best. Or should we say it a different way? Least good to best. Because there's no bad ones other than No Time to Die, which I'll never, ever get bored of saying come at me. It's fine. We can have a difference of opinion. What's next on the channel, guys, is tomorrow I am off to the cinema to see The Many Saints of Newark. I will do an instant out of the cinema reaction, and I will be posting a review for Many Saints of Newark tomorrow evening. So please be on the lookout for that. I'll be going live, just having an open discussion with it. Full disclaimer for those of you watching now, I've seen season 1 of Sopranos. I've not seen the others. So I'd be really interested to see if there are other Sopranos fans out there on here now who can probably fill in some blanks that there may be when I watch the movie. But yeah, Many Saints of Newark, going to see it tomorrow. And at some point, I'm going to have to go and watch the Sopranos because season 1 was amazing. And yeah, next week, in relation to the Sopranos, we've got the top 10 depictions of fictional gangsters in movies. Then there should be a review of Carnage, or Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Then there's going to be a review of Dune, which I've managed to get an early screening access to, which I'm not going to lie, I'm quite proud of. I'm chuffed about that. But yeah, I get to go and see Dune early. And then after that, we're going to do, probably with a special guest, I haven't decided who yet, but we're going to do the top 10 comic book villains in movies. And we might not include Thanos because it's a bit bloody obvious. But or we may, who knows? Just a few last comments that have come in. Harry's Boy says, great show again. Harry's Boy, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Aunt D said, lol, the salt is going to last without No Time to Die. Aunt D, the salt will never go. I remain salty forever at that movie. And QWERTY Manor says, you're just a No Time to Die hater. Yes, sir. Guilty as charged. And Dennis Cook said, Oromov is my golden eye. Is he who you used to play as on the Nintendo 64 game? And Dennis Cook said, seen it. I imagine you're saying The Many Saints of Newark there, not the others. And if you've seen the others, then I'm very jealous. But yeah, guys, thanks for the comments. Thank you so much for interacting. It's kind of giving me a reason to start doing content on the regular again like this. I've been out of the game for a long time. Even if it's just a few people watching now, it really makes me feel really happy. So the way that my content is, I hope, entertaining you guys. It's making me really happy to see a lot of you tuning in. And Den the Cook says, June, you've seen June. I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. Don't say anything. No spoilers, please. Yeah, guys, tune in tomorrow. Many Saints of Newark will be here. I'll be going live. Hit that notification bell so that you do get notified when I am going live. It won't always be live content, but I mean, I'd prefer to be interacting with you instead of just force-feeding content down your throats. Yeah, let's keep this ball rolling, guys. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It's, as I said, I feel very, very humbled by it. So thank you, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the Many Saints of Newark review. Until then, please like the video, share it with anyone who you think may be interested, and I'll see you guys very soon.